Hey everybody, want to share with you a quick update of some things that have been happening at North Sound Church. Chris and Casey are accelerator students and they are in the program for their church, and one of the things that they wanted to do was improve their live stream audio. They already were running a DAW. They were mixing through Reaper. The computer that they were using wasn't quite up to par as far as processing power could go, so I recommended they go with a M1 Mac Mini, which they did. And they also downloaded this Ableton template, which is available to broadcast mix mastery students. So if you're in the course, or if you are a accelerator student in the program, you can have access to this template that they said that they started using. And actually, when I listened to their live stream, I sent him a text saying, hey, just checking in, see how you're doing, listen to your live stream. It sounds really good. I had no idea, why it had sounded better. I just told him, checked in, sounded great. And then he responded, it just so happens we started to use your Ableton template last Sunday. And as I was texting him more today, he said that a bunch of people have already noticed the new mix on the live stream and saying it is much better. So that was really exciting and encouraging to hear. But Chris did say, hey, could you take a look at our mix template and see if there are any adjustments that you might make? So what I did was downloaded it from him and just made a few minor tweaks I wanted to share with you guys. The things that I would do as I'm customizing this template for a specific church. And of course, Chris is a good engineer. He's got a good ear. He's a great musician, so he can listen to this and make adjustments for himself. But just a few things that I personally did to the template that he had already worked on, I wanted to show you. So first, let's listen to what he had done with the Ableton template. So I'm just going to play a section of the before. So this is something that he had mixed using our broadcast template. You can see on the right that it was metering pretty well. I have got a universal audio arrow for my interface, so it comes with this software and I can see what the volume is metering at. So again, if you check this out, it's already at a good volume, so that's not something that we're concerned about. Some of the things that I listened to this and heard that I wanted to adjust were the way that the drums sounded, just tonally. Wanted to make some EQ adjustments there. The vocals I felt were just a little bit hot, and a bunch of other things that I'll share with you as we go through this mix. So that was the before, and I'll play a little bit again just so you can hear it, and then we'll go back into the after and talk about what I did. Now we've got the after, so I'll play in a similar section. So that is the after I'd put some work into it this morning. So let's go section by section, or input by input, and talk about some of the things that I did. On the drum group here, I'm going to move me to this side. On the drum group here, I did a little bit of EQ on the kick, and that was pretty much it. Just a a little bit less of a boost in the high end and a little bit more of a boost over here, and pulled out some honky frequencies down here, and a little bit of high mid up there. On our snare microphone, this looks crazy. Go ahead and throw some hate in the comments for those that like to EQ with your eyes, but I was EQing with my ears and just love the full body attack of the snare. I'm just getting that thud out of it, so that's why this is at a gain of 10 for this frequency band. So yep, I know I'll get some negative reviews for that. That's cool with me. But I just really like that thud out of the snare, and also give it a little bit of air by boosting some of the high end here. And you can see I'm hitting this compressor at getting 10 dB of reduction, so it's pretty smashed. But if we listen to it without this processing, I just like that better. Toms. So these are electronic drums, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that, as you can probably tell by the waveforms. Nothing crazy with the toms. Pulling out some high end. This band is at not this band. This band is at about 12K. So I'm just pulling out everything above that. I don't need it, just to get it a little bit warmer, but also boosting a little bit of the low end to get some more thud out of these drums as well. That's it, just a little bit of EQ, a little bit of compression on those guys. This is a channel that I made, a stereo channel for Chris, so that he could not have tom left and right coming out of, or to mix rather, so you can just have one tom fader as they're mixing broadcast. It's an electronic kit, so all the rack toms and the floor tom are panned stereo across 2 channels, so that's going to be easier for whoever's mixing broadcast to have just that one stereo channel instead of a left and a right. And I'll do the same thing for crashes here, but because it was recorded this way, we're going to be mixing it this way. Hi-hat, pulling out everything, band 1 here, below 129. So that was one of the things on the previous mix. I thought the hi-hat was just a little bit harsh. Also giving a little bit of high-end sparkle boost there. The ride, just pulling out low and high end out of it. Again, it's an electronic kit. And as far as the levels go on these drums, you can see the hi-hat's at -18. It was a lot hotter before, but it still sits in the mix properly. Also did panning on here, so I've got the hi-hat when you're watching the drummer, and they're playing, either hitting the hi-hat on the screen there on the right side when you're looking at the kit, so that's why it's panned that way. Same thing with the ride. And the crashes I also pulled down a little bit, but yeah, still just some high cut, low cut filters on there. And then this shaker mic, I don't think he used during the recording here, which was during rehearsal. But that's all the processing on the individual channels. We've just got our EQ here. We don't need chain. Got our EQ and compressor on all of these guys. And these are just the built-in plugins on Ableton Live. That's all that's happening there. But on the drum group, I did opt to throw on this Sweet Drums drum processor from Analog Obsession. If you haven't seen the video that we did with Michael Curtis yet, he's the guy that recommended this. He's a engineer, producer, live sound guy that's really smart, has a great ear, and he recommended these Analog Obsession plugins to me. So they're free, but you can donate using their Patreon model. So check it out if you like the sound of it, like I did. But I'm going to take this off and put it back on so you can hear it. So you can probably achieve that same thing through some compression and EQ and harmonic, adding some harmonic somehow. But somebody with a lot of engineering skills built this plugin, and it's really simple, and I'm liking the sound that came out of it. So I'm using that on the drum bus after it hits this little glue compressor. So that is all of the drums except for the effects we're sending it to. So again, I stole from another YouTuber, friends with a guy named James Attaway. You can check out his channel as well. We've collaborated with him. He's going to be teaching at our Churchfront live event in October. And one of the things that I learned from him or saw in one of his videos was he sent the drums to a reverb. I've always previously sent snare, toms, maybe hi-hat and crashes to a drum reverb. I didn't want the kick in the reverb. I didn't want too much of the cymbals in the reverb, but watched a video of him where he sent the entire drum group to a reverb, and then with doing that, making sure that you filter out the low and high. So if we go to our EQ, I'm filtering out the low end, so the kick, maybe a little bit of the snap goes to the reverb, but you're not getting this boomy reverb from the drums because you're cutting out the low end that's going to that reverb. So tried it out and I was happy with it. So none of these channels are going directly to the reverb, just the drum group is going to the reverb. So yeah, I was happy with that. Shout out to James. Thanks for sharing that tip. The other place that we're sending this is to a parallel compression. So all of these shells, I know it's an electronic kit, but the kick, snare, and toms are going to this drum crush. Or again, another way to say it is a parallel compression. So these are being sent here, and I'll turn this off so you can hear without it. What's happening here is just making sure none of the low end, it's only set to 30 hertz. Probably could even set that lower. Cutting out that energy that doesn't need to be in the mix, cutting out a little bit of high end, boosting some of this 5K just to get more snap out of it. And then for our glue compressor, we've got our attack set pretty slow. And it's a 10-to-1 ratio, so it's really smashing it. And then after that, we hit it with a limiter. So this is really just getting the attack out of the drums. So that's everything for the drums, including the effects for it. The next thing I did was pull down the tracks quite a lot. We're at -18. There's tracks left and right. Again, when you're using Ableton, you can have stereo inputs. So instead of using 35 and 36 separately, I would just have one. I'll just build this right here for them. So this, you just set the inputs to 35/36, and then I'm going to disable all these sends. We're not going to send tracks to the reverbs for vocals or the drum crush, any of that, so might as well just disable those. But what we're doing here, again, just low cut, high cut, a little bit of compression. All of these will be copied over. So this little guy right here is several plugins in a chain, and I can actually just copy and paste this chain. So I'm going to put it right here. And this is a chain that I actually built and put into the template. So if you have access to this template through Worship Ministry School, or if you're interested in it, you can get all of these presets with the course. I'm going to throw this in right there. So now we've got our tracks chain and this input trim. Anyway, tracks, not a lot going on. Just turn the volume down. We can solo and listen to it. It's mostly just this shaker. Later on, or actually previously in this song, it's got a little synth thing, but it's mostly percussion, so we're going to keep that lower. Band. So on the band bus, very slight EQ. This is right here. This band is set at almost 2K. Just pulling a little bit of that out, and then pulling the low end out, and then compressing that. Just a 2-to-1 compressor on there. So all of these channels right here that you see are going into this group. We've got bass, pulling out some of the high end and compressing it, and then limiting it, just keeping that really level for the low end. And then we've got our bass drive. Again, I've got another one of these Analog Obsession plugins that I found. I don't love Ableton's overdrive option, so if you're doing this trick with the bass, I recommend finding a third-party plugin. But we can check that out now. So this is just the normal bass channel. But we pull in the bass drive. You're probably thinking, Adam, that bass sounds like trash. It does, on its own, but let's listen to it in the mix. So adding that in allows you to hear the notes of the bass a little bit more, gives the whole mix a little bit of just interesting little crunch on there. But, you know, take it or leave it. I enjoy using this tool. Again, left electric guitar and right, made a stereo channel for Chris on here, though in this recording there's not any guitars. Piano left and right, just simple EQ and compression. And then this synth track, again, I've got this wonky looking EQ, but it works. I'm pushing the mids on this because it's one of the instruments that can sound decent in that range, and we need something in that mid-range to make the mix sound a little bit thicker. So pushing the mid-range on this synth, which is just a strings sound. Again, you probably think, Adam, that doesn't sound very good, but it's all about the context of the mix, and we're trying to get all these instruments to fit together. So we'll play it without EQ, unsoloed. And that's it for instruments. The next thing we have is vocals. Slight EQ, compression to bus compress those together. Again, a 2-to-1, pretty light compression. For vocals that were actually recorded for this, we just have 3 vocals, and this is the lead vocal. We've got waves tune, vocal pitch correction, EQ, cutting out high and low end, giving a little bit of sparkle on the top. And then we hit it with 2 compressors, and after that, move this out of the way, I've got this one other Waves plugin. Again, I just really enjoy the simplicity of some of these plugins. You can achieve it with Ableton Live's built in, but I really like how easy to use this de-esser from Waves is. So that's on every vocal as well. And Casey is a great vocalist. You can tell she's on pitch. The microphones that they're using are a good fit for her. When I turn off the processing, it still sounds good, but it just helps it fit into the mix and have it be a little bit tighter. Holy, 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 it's the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing. Something else that I did on these vocals was pulled back the background vocalist, because when they're at the same level, it just doesn't sound right to my ears. It's like they're adding harmonies to it, but it's not the thing that needs to stick out the most. You can still hear them. So previously they were a little bit hotter in the mix. Holy, 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 it's the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. Now these rooms, this was a rehearsal, so there weren't actually people in the room singing, so not making a difference in this particular mix. And for vocal effects here, we've got a slap, delay, and a reverb. Again, using this reverb. I just like that better than the Ableton reverb slightly. So that's it. That's this whole mix and all the things that I did to get it customized a little bit more for North Sound Church. And for a reminder, here's what we sounded like with just the template that they downloaded from being a part of Worship Ministry School. It's the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Holy, 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 it's the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. Hey, Adam from the future here. I know this looks kind of meta, but this is what's going on. Editing, realizing you guys don't have context for what North Sound Church sounded like online before they started using the Ableton template provided in Worship Ministry School. So let's take a listen to that on their YouTube channel. And then this is console, so you can see the volume levels. So that's all of my secrets on this particular mix and getting to help Chris and Casey out with North Sound Church and their broadcast mix. I love getting to do this. I love getting to do front of house mixes for churches and helping people figure out ProPresenter or their team structure or organization, pastoral things. All of that we do through worshipministryschool.com, where I am a coach. And so if you've seen this channel before, you've seen some of the things that we get to do, but this is a little bit of an inside look on specifically how we get to help out some of our accelerator students. So if you're interested in getting that kind of help, you can check out worshipministryschool.com/apply. Check that out, and thanks for watching.